I think what if all the time. What if it doesn't necessarily mean change? Like, what if I changed it to this color or changed it to that? But it's like, what if this happened? If something else happened? That's the other thing that keeps me going from one thing to, from one painting to the next painting to the next painting.
Hello, everybody. This is Rodney Veal, the host of Rodney Veal's Inspired By, and today, yet again, I'm always talking about fanboying out, but it's because I just love all of the guests we have on the show. But this is a really special guest because we've actually collaborated together on a
Mm-hmm.
project, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'm super excited to talk about that and so many other things with the ever delightful and amazingly talented Gretchen Durst Jacobs.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. I tell you, I elevate, I elevate, and you are
Oh,
so worthy of it. So,
oh, thanks. Thanks. I appreciate that.
oh no, it's not, but totally my pleasure. All true, all honest. And so, what I love, and Gretchen, we've known each other, and don't want to put time on it, but we've known each other for a while,
Right. A
as
while.
a while. But we've known each other in the capacity of our own individual art makers and things like that. But what's really lovely about today, I think, is the fact that I get to find out your and share with the world your origin story, your thoughts and ideas about art and art making. And I need to go all the way back to the beginning. Like, when, where, how did this love of art take hold of your life?
Wow. That's
I
a
don't,
long way to go back.
well, I mean,
I know. It all depends, right?
all depends.
Um, yeah, I would say early, probably like 12-ish, 11, 12-ish. I remember the first time that somebody got all excited about something I drew
Mm.
was in grade school. I did a report on Abraham Lincoln, and I remember I did this drawing of him, and that was the only thing I remembered. And I remember thinking, "This is the coolest thing ever to be able to do this, to be able to make this drawing." And I was pretty young because I remember the format of it. So I think that's around 12. And the teacher, somebody got all excited. I just remember that, parents, teachers, whatever.
Mm.
My parents were both musicians and they were also both educators. So my mother was elementary school teacher, and my dad taught band and music in the Dayton schools. So, and was a musician as himself, a percussionist, but he played every instrument. So art was a little different for them. I think they were supportive, but they also didn't really understand it. It was one of those things. So
Oh, I know the mystery. It is well,
yes,
that is kind of a mystery when you're dealing with sound, and all of a sudden there's someone who's not dealing with sound.
right.
But, I mean, that's a whole.
That's a whole different ball of wax. And I had to play an instrument. It was like I was demanded. And it's not that I didn't like music, but it just didn't do it for me like visual art did. So going through all the instruments, because my dad taught, he would come home, okay, try the flute, okay, try the trombone, okay, try the so I stuck with piano because that thought, well, I have to do it and I can do that. And I did it for 8 years. And now, of course, I wish I would have stuck with it because I have my
Mm.
dad's marimba. And if I had remembered how to play piano, I would be able to play this marimba. Anyway,
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, but they did let me, I went to the Dayton Art Institute for classes really early. And then I took classes from a neighbor woman who I babysat her kids, and she was not that much older than I. I think at that point I'm probably 14, and she was probably barely 20. And she had these two little boys. And we would, and kind of crazy, what she had us do was pretty important, I think, now when I look back. We had to copy master painters. Um,
Wow.
and, that's what I went to the studio school sessions, and one of the things we would do is copy painters, copy the masterworks. So that's what we did, and she started us out with oil. She's like, we're not doing watercolor, we're not doing acrylic, and you could draw, but so that's what I started out doing. And it was fun because she was so young, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
you know,
There's just something about that. There's something like it's like kind of like,
yeah,
oh, she's cool with it. She's pretty,
yeah,
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 yeah.
because she felt cool and she was really funny and warm and she made it a lot of fun.
Talk to me about the high school
Yeah.
experience, because we talked about high school's being a weird time
Yes,
as an art maker.
it was. So I didn't do a lot. I did art classes, in high school, but it was heavy in the crafts, and I didn't like the craft part. And it's
Mm,
for some reason I figured that out without really.
kind of
Um,
kind of
yeah,
you just kind of knew. You just kind of know.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah. I didn't like any of the projects we did when we did crafts, and that's probably how I figured it out. But the art classes were a lot more fun and engaging. I went to Kent State for a couple of years and dropped out young. Um, and I went back to school later, probably about 10 years or so later, to Sinclair to finish up graphic
really?
design. Yeah, graphic design degree, because I was doing graphic design and I needed some kind of degree. Um, I was in Texas at that time. I mean, before I came back and finished the degree. Um, and then did graphic design jobs at LexisNexis was my last employer as a graphic designer. And, um, did things like went back to school because they paid a lot of your school 75% and just got um, a degree in marketing because that would give me a raise.
We
So,
understand that,
yeah,
absolutely.
because
We
I could,
understand that one.
I know, and I couldn't do the design degree at UD because the classes were in the day and they wouldn't allow that. So I could do
Mm,
this night school thing. So I did that. I went to a lot of different. I've got a lot of education, I guess. And then, gosh, while I was at LexisNexis, I somehow fell across these two art museums that had this business called the Art Source, or I called it the Art Source. But it was a business that helped local artists market and sell their work. And I thought the DAI should do this. So since I was at LexisNexis with all these great marketing people, I asked one of my friends to help me write a business plan. I pitched it to the DAI, and Linda Lombard was part of that. And they actually went for it, and was when
oh,
Alex Nargis was there.
okay.
So yeah, so they put me in charge of this for about a year, a little over a year, and we placed a lot of artwork at Kettering Hospital. That was the first big job. But in the process of doing that, I kept meeting all these wonderful artists, and it became, painfully clear that that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to, you know, I didn't. I liked doing the art source, but I wanted to make the work because it was,
There's
you
something about
know,
it's very
yeah,
different. It's different.
yeah.
It's very different to kind of
Oh,
promote and elevate other artists and art, and you're like, "Ooh, but isn't
right.
that looks like fun." I mean, there
It's
is an
fun.
enjoyment. There is an enjoyment to making. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was painful because I had put a lot of work into starting that business. And I remember I was just crying for days, couldn't figure out. It was like a loss when I finally quit or left the art source. And it went to DVAC at the time. And then I think it has followed through to the Co. But I had the opportunity to go back and finish a BFA. And then after that, I finished or did my MFA at UC.
Okay.
And in,
Wow.
be- in between those two, I did 2 summers at the New York Studio School in 2000 and 2003. And that totally rocked my world. That was
I can
yeah,
talk to me about New York. I mean, you were. I mean, you're just taking. I love the fact that it feels like you did this kind of fearlessly. I mean, do you know what I'm saying?
Uh,
Well, I mean, but hindsight, obviously, but at
right.
the time, I mean, what did people think of you go saying, I'm going
Well,
to go to New York for these artist residencies? And
I think my husband, when I look back, it was him that was he was so supportive. And he's like, you have to do this. And this is a guy, he's a lawyer. He was general counsel at Lex. He doesn't have, you wouldn't think, right?
right,
Um, that someone in that area would understand it, but he was very persuasive that I should do this, because I'd come home and say, well, I heard about this studio school in New York. And at the time I had a 16-year-old daughter, and it was his stepdaughter, and I was worried about what is she going to do all summer, because it was almost 3 months. It was 2.5 months I was there. So we set her up with all sorts of activities for the first year. So she was too busy to get into any trouble.
there you go. That's
So that was a relief. But I think it was his support. And I'd say at that point in my life, I was close to 40. And at that time, I felt old, which is so stupid now when I look
you
at it.
look back, absolutely. There's a
Yeah,
moment. Oh,
right. And I
right.
felt like I needed to jump on this now, because time's running, time's ticking. And I think that feeling has always stayed with me. And that is a driver for me to do things.
Oh, wow.
It's like TikTok, you know,
That's a
now or never.
Now or never. That's
Yeah.
about you. That's a phrase. One of our executive producers of the art show, her favorite phrase was always TikTok, TikTok. As soon
Right.
as we were like, we got things to do. TikTok. I'm
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
but that ticking of the clock, especially as and I'm going to say, a artist of a certain age, because
Hmm.
I don't believe in this whole thing about you're old artist or young
Hmm.
artist. You're either an artist or you're not, as
Hmm.
far as I'm concerned. I mean, that yeah, I just find it very fascinating that your lawyerly husband
Hmm.
said, pursue your passion.
Hmm.
I mean, that is wild.
I know. I know. So, yeah. And New York, this was early 2000. That was before 9/11.
Wow.
And the first time. And then the second time was after. It was 3 years after. And I had made good friends the first time,
Mhm.
still friends, and still keep in contact with a couple of them. Um, but the studio school was so intense and so rigorous. I mean, like bloody intense, bloody rigorous.
Ooh,
We would be there. We arrive, I don't know, 8, 9 in the morning, and then Graham Nixon would do critiques, and I wouldn't get home till about midnight. Um,
wow.
and I remember towards the end, I was walking back from the subway, and in New York, I wasn't afraid. And it was a different time. It was in the early 2000s. It was a different city than it was in the 80s and 90s.
Right, right.
But I remember walking and I thought, I can't feel my legs. I really can't feel anything. So after that was over and I got home and I started seeing some massage body person people that I go to for those kinds of things. She said, I think your nervous system was like shutting down. She said, that's one of the,
Mm.
and it was just a lot of stimulation, right? A lot intense, but I would do it again. I
At a
would
heart,
do
yeah.
I would do it again.
I
Um,
love that. Yeah, because I mean
ugh,
that it's an immersion. I don't think people who are not artists understand
right.
that you have to immerse yourself into
You
this world.
do.
This is not you step in, you step out.
No.
It's pretty much every decision is kind of connected to it, and
Right.
you're in the epicenter of it. Because New
Yeah.
York,
Oh yeah.
as much as I love Dayton, and I love Dayton, and I love Southwest Ohio, we're doing some cool stuff here. New York is,
I know.
yeah, you
It
can't skip it.
is. Yeah. And I think, and we were so immersed. On weekends, then we would meet at the Met and draw, or just go look at,
God,
or go to a show. We would get these invitations connected to the school to
uh-huh.
see artists' works in a gallery in a show. So it was totally immersive. it was fantastic. I didn't really want to come home. I wanted to come home to my family, but you
but you
know,
but you
I
wanted to kind of
yeah,
do you feel in many ways that you kind of brought that immersion with, I mean, you can't help but be affected and changed by it, but
right,
also too, it's not just that, it's like what else you bring to it, like
yeah,
that comes with it,
yeah.
that vibe and that feeling.
Hmm.
And so
I
yeah,
think so, and I think I have the work ethic. Um, because my lawyer husband will say, past this past year, he's like, "You work so hard. I think you work harder than I did," and I'm like, "Nah, I don't think so." But I mean, it's totally different. It's totally
yeah.
different kind of work. But and I like again, I think the time element. There are certain things I feel really driven even now to try to accomplish. I don't
Mhm.
know if I will, um, but I want to give it a really good try. And if to do that means it's not a part time thing, it's every day. My studio's in my house, so I'm pretty lucky that way. Um, I can, I'm lucky that way because I don't have something pulling at me like my daughter's well grown by now. So a lot of people don't like studios at home, right? Because it's too much other
Distraction
interruptions. Yeah.
and distractions and interruptions, their whole notion
Yeah.
of
Right.
I always feel guilty because I'm working and I
Hmm.
look over and I'm like, you could be doing laundry. You could be, and I'm like,
Right.
nah, let me move to it. I think but you found a way to make it work because a lot of
Yeah.
people don't. Space for an artist is the
Mhm.
toughest
Mhm.
question that I think to answer.
Right.
Where do
It
you feel
is.
comfortable to be creative in? And do you make it
Mhm.
your home or do you make it another place? And then it becomes, it's a question of cost and
Mhm.
just how far away is the studio? Then you're driving. Then there's so many things
Right.
that go
I
into
mean,
decision.
Gene Kohler and I had a studio at Front Street back in the day.
Oh,
What?
that's right.
I mean, I moved out of that almost 15 years ago. Like, was it 2011? So
Yeah,
14.
that's still
Yeah.
11. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. 14 years ago. And Front Street was very different.
Yeah, oh, yes, it
It
was.
was really different. And it was really different when she first got there because she had been there a while,
Yeah,
before
that
we started.
evolution.
Yeah. Before we started sharing it. And the commute wasn't bad there, but I have to say, since I've been in my studio here is a little smaller, but it's not small by any means. I
Mhm.
have an office, I have a closet for storage, I have all the storage closets in the house. Are It's a big old house, and it was built as a kind of like a it was a house in the front and then a house in the back, but the walls were opened up, so it's a lot of space.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
but it works.
It
I like
works.
it. Yeah.
Well, I find that interesting. Do you have that typical? I mean, because I have never asked someone this question about their studio space, and I'm very curious. I mean, the whole notion. I see photographs, and I've been to other art studio spaces. Um, that kind of I must have white walls in order to kind of see the work. But you're such a color driven artist. I'm kind of curious. Like, do you have an all? Is it all white?
Yeah, it's
Is your
all white. Yeah, this is green that you see because it's the office, but the studio is right there and it's all white. And I repaint it with either like primer when it
mm,
when it gets dirty, because it gets really dirty. Paint
paint?
flies, and if you're
Paint.
doing charcoal, that. So yeah, I keep it white. Somebody was saying they can't work in a white studio, and I need the white. I think because I work with a lot of color, it's got to have a boundary, right? That's not
Absolutely.
interfering with
Right.
what's happening on the surface or on the matrix. So, yeah, I find that works pretty well. Did you hear that?
I heard that. That's so funny. I love it.
Oh my God, it's
We
my
must
watch.
your watch is talking. I love it.
Yeah, I will put it over here.
Not a problem. Oh, I love it. Well, that's interesting because I'm very curious about it because I do have an all white space as well, but
Hmm.
I'm not painting, but it's just because I'm using so much color
Hmm.
and I'm using I just you can't there's you just need to see it in this kind of that stark boundary sort of way. And
Right.
And like you said, what I love, we talked about color, is the fact that color, even in the current iteration of the abstractions that you do, let's go back to like the kind of work that even 15 years ago
Mhm.
you have evolved.
Mhm.
And so talk about that the early work, because there was still a driven sense of structure and color,
Mhm.
but not in the sense of total abstraction.
No, no. And I don't see it totally well, it is
Yeah,
pretty
I'm kind of curious.
abstract. Yeah. I'd say, I started out landscape. I remember when that kicked in, that love of the landscape was when I was at Wright State. And, we would do paintings in the studio of still lives. And I was sort of like, okay. And then the figure, and I'd be thinking, okay. But when we went outside, it was like, oh my God, this is intense and it's insane because so much is happening and so much is going on. And if you shift your gaze a quarter of an inch, it's a whole different thing, you know?
Yeah.
That that's what I liked. Evidently, I like the adrenaline and the sort of intensity of that because it felt similar when I was at the studio school, you know? So the outside, working outside, and I pick things like woods or thickets that are really complicated. I'm not interested in the big vistas,
All
like,
right.
I
The
don't
kind
know.
of, well, there's something
Yeah,
about this interweaving of the
right.
imagery, because I know what you're getting at. I mean,
Mhm.
that's,
Right.
and it's like, yeah, there's something really interesting about that, and the fact that you focus in on it when other people would probably go, let me pull way back and see
Mhm.
horizontal skylines, and sort
Mhm.
of it's just that depth of the horizon seems to fascinate people more, and I'm like, no, that doesn't fascinate me.
Yeah. No,
I'm
me
with you. I'm like,
neither.
okay,
Yeah.
and I've tried it too, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, nature was really big. I kind of skipped over that in my upbringing. My parents were sort of amateur naturalists. And my grandparents had a farm. I spent most of my summers from like
Wow.
7-year-old till 12 or 13, right? When you're like, I don't want to spend my summer on my grandparents' farm anymore. I want to hang out with my friends. But I did that for years. And it was back in the day when it's like, okay, I had breakfast.
What next?
Yeah. And then the rest of the day, it was like wandering all over this farm, in woods, and nobody's worried about you. And there was a dog. There's always a dog that would accompany me. Sometimes friends that were in that area, farm
Yeah.
farm family
Wow.
friends. But so I think the natural world, it was just my parents loved it. They were always sort of testing us. What leaf is this? What tree is this? So we kind of had to know what trees were and which trees were what. But so that played in. Plus, I think I just naturally loved it, and I also feel like the landscape for years was an emotional solace. There were some difficult things in my life going on, and I thought often that the landscape can reflect to you like the struggle,
Mm.
especially in a woods where one tree falls on another and it sort of deforms in order to grow, but it still grows. Life still goes on. And, nature can be really violent, like incredibly violent, and still resilient and still can go on. And I think those things I always found to be really fascinating and like us, like people. So, because we are nature, right?
Hmm.
As
Absolutely.
Pollock said. But yeah, I think those things really stayed with me for a long time. So I stayed with landscape, I don't know, almost 25 years, probably, 20
Yeah.
some years. Yeah.
And so,
So,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, that's a long stretch. That's a long
Mhm.
stretch of time. And like I said, there's a demarcation line. I mean, in
Mhm.
25 years to this place you're at now. And I was always curious. I was curious about where you're at now based upon that nature influenced sort of landscape ish look and feel of your work, and it was
Mhm.
just like what was the kind of
Switch.
switch? Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. What
Mhm.
was the switch?
It was slow in coming. I'd say it was 10 years in coming. I would work in the studio for a while without going out in the landscape and feeling like this isn't it. I don't know what I'm doing. And it was scary because it's a it is a big shift sort of, but I don't think it's that big for me when I look at it. Like I see the through line and I can
Okay,
feel the through line.
and I can
Um,
sense it. I sense it and feel it as well. That it's much
right,
more natural.
right.
It seems more. The word I used was organic.
Okay, yeah, that's makes sense. Um, I think for I sort of came to realization, right? As artists, I think, and I don't know, everybody grows and develops, and you see yourself differently as you grow and develop. And I saw myself and understood why I painted the landscape more clearly as time would go on. And really, what I was interested in, of course, I'm interested in nature, but I'm also interested in the human, like the human condition, what it's like to be
Mm.
human. And of course, the emotional component of that, also the intellectual component of that. But my paintings, I knew, even when they were landscape, were highly emotionally emotive.
Mm.
Some
Mm.
were more than others, some were more subtle, it wasn't as obvious. So that became the most important thing for me, I think, in the work. And I knew if I was in a studio, I wanted to try some different things. Like, what if at that time, I was only working in oil. And at that time, I thought, what if I just want to shift and start working on something with black and white acrylic paint or charcoal? And in a studio, it's easier physically because you can just pivot and shift. So I started doing a little bit more of that. And then I realized this is what I wanted. And then I'd still go out and paint a little bit. And then it just became primarily working in the studio. I still go out and
Mhm.
do some small things from nature. But I also like memory, memory and the feeling of something. And someone asked, how do you start? And I thought, that's such a impossible question, but also
Yeah.
super simple. You start where you start. You start by, um, I, I never have trouble with ideas. There's always so many things I would want to do and explore. So, but there's a prevailing, I guess you could say, topic or theme that I want to explore. And the grid is what I'm working with now.
Mhm. Which is
Yeah, which I kind of fell into, but I also love the structure of it. And it did help, I feel, it helped me understand abstraction because abstraction is the way I was painting before was so, and it is, well, I was going to say it was so intuitive from nature, but I still looked at a lot of the masters, right? And
right.
thought
You
along
thought about
their lines, right?
right, right. You
Like,
do kind of take the
right.
tools from that
Yeah,
kind of exploration of
right.
artists, especially the masters. I mean, it does come into play.
Hmm. Yeah, but I think the grid when I fell into it, what I was doing was this massive sheet of paper, like 52 by I think it was 70 something, and I taped a grid out, and I had made this entire painting over the whole thing with the tape in place, and then I pulled the tape off, and the intent was to cut them up into little squares, right, and
Right.
rearrange. Well, when I pulled the tape off, I'm like, holy, what is this?
It's so
And
different.
yeah, it's like, this is not going to be cut apart.
Does that happen? And that happens a lot with a lot of artists that I've spoken to, and a lot of artists that make it's like it's I call it the happy accident. Most of them, it says it's that your
Hmm.
intention and your execution leads to another
Hmm. Yeah.
intention or reality that's like, oh, this is a better reality. This is
Yeah.
a better realization of an idea.
Right.
Oh, and
Absolutely. And I think that's how I start. It's like, well, what did I just finish? And I don't have to think about that. It's still with me and it's pulling me on to the next and then to
yeah.
the next and then to the next. So, because there's always something as I'm working on something, I do think about what's next. Like the next painting, I'm going to use this idea, but I'm going to change maybe the scale or the
Yeah.
color or the whatever, right? So there's never a shortage. That painting I looked at for almost a year and a half trying to figure it out. I kind of went on and did other things. But I I hate to say happy accident. I think these things are intuitive and you know what you're doing.
Okay.
You know what you're doing, but you don't know at the time that you know what you're doing because it's sort of subliminal. Um, I think painting is a lot like meditating. You're in a zone,
Mm.
right? And
Hmm.
it's not always happy all the time. Sometimes it's a struggle, if things aren't going right. But it's not like I can make a painting and think about what I'm going to have for dinner. That doesn't work. Um, no,
I don't think that works for anyone. I
no,
mean, it's like
yeah,
you had to. It's kind of this thing that with dance that we always say you have to be present.
yeah. You have to be present.
You don't worry about did you lock your car door? Did
Hmm.
it's like, what am I going to eat for dinner? Like, oh, I need to go get a massage. No, you're
Hmm.
dancing, you're moving in this moment.
Hmm.
But I think
Yeah,
because I find visual artists, everyone is talking about that as well.
yeah,
Visual artists and musicians is about being present. And we hear these phrases about being present, but no one really sits down and actually defines it. Like
yeah. That's
what
being present, really. I think artists of all kinds, if that is being present, right?
yeah. Which
Yeah.
just kind of makes this kind of subversive and scary to other people.
I know. Or so they just don't get it. So you get that sort of glass-eyed stare back at you, and then I think, okay, never mind.
You're not following. Okay, it's
Right.
okay. That's
It's okay.
nice.
It's all
It's
right.
okay. You maybe one day.
Yeah.
I
And
was
it
so
and I don't mean that as in a judgment way at all,
no.
but
It's just
how do you explain it, right? How do you
how do you explain the drive to be present and to make work that's creating based upon memory and ideas and thoughts and just layers of things. It's more
mhm,
layers of things that go into the work than even
yes,
we could even articulate.
right.
And I
And that
think that that's the
yeah.
thing.
And I think as you bring that up, people are asking me, "Well, what's the work about?" Yes, it's about the natural world and those kinds of things. It's also, I study things like sacred geometry, right? Kind of fell upon that. And that's really the laws of nature have this, not laws of nature, but things in nature have a structure to them that is mathematical if you break it down, like snowflakes, the inside of a shell, the development of petals in the middle of a flower,
Hmm.
those follow these really, I don't want to say complicated, but these intricate patterns.
Hmm.
That I think is interesting. I use that to help me with the grid when I got interested in the grid. So those things are interesting to me. I study shamanism. I'm not a shaman, but I study those practices. Um, so it's a spiritual thing as well. And the kind of shamanism and the component that I really like works with the animal world and sort of the natural world. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I know I'm not really explaining what all that is, and I don't think we have time, but
So no,
you
it's all right.
know,
It's a podcast.
yeah,
We can take the time. I mean, it's
right.
just, but
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 yeah, and I think that, I guess to sum it up, is that study in shamanism again. It's being really present. It's this form of meditation. Um, when
Mhm.
I when I do that, it's a form of meditation, and it's a connection. It's a connection with the natural world. So
Mm.
all these things, and then of course my parents as musicians, music was constantly going in the
Rhythms,
house.
the
Right,
rhythmic patterns. There's
right,
rhythmic patterns to your work too,
yeah,
and
yeah.
oof, Yeah.
I know. And my dad loved jazz, so there was a lot of jazz. And then
Mhm.
my mom liked opera. So
Talk
yeah,
about talk about grand scale and
right.
arrhythmic
Right.
dissonance. Oh my god! I mean, but that's the thing about what you're exposed to
Hmm.
kind of feeds into it. Kind of
Yeah.
feeds without you naming it or defining it.
Right. Right.
And I think that's to me that's what I find fascinating because I'm at that place with
Hmm.
I'm in this weird place of I'm still creating, I'm still moving,
Hmm.
which you have seen,
Hmm.
and
Of
still,
course. Yeah.
and so it's such a, but I'm also helping tell the stories of artists and art makers, and it kind of sharing that hoping that people under kind of go. My hope, and this is, I never really probably have even articulated this to the station, is that I hope people want to explore a little deeper
Hmm.
versus then versus the 10-second drive-by when you go to a
Hmm.
museum. I was like,
Hmm.
if you don't make it out of the medieval art section of the museum, that's okay.
Yeah. That's a
Stay
good
there.
day.
That's a
Yeah.
good day. It's not the I need to see it all. No,
Right.
focus in, like be present to that and kind of explore. Do you know what
It's
I'm
the
saying? Like,
immersion again, like you mentioned
mhm.
earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and so we're kind of hardwired that way, but we're
Hmm.
kind of, and that's what makes us very I think intriguing to the world,
Hmm.
but I hope that they're getting that message, like, folks, just don't, your work invites more investigation.
Hmm.
That's what I love about what you're doing, and I'm
Hmm.
like, it just it's and that is, it's got to be really satisfying when people say, I really like your work,
Hmm.
but they're saying it from different works of life, and
Right.
they're responding to something that they've been told
Right.
abstraction of what does your work mean, and it has to have meaning, but the meaning's already there.
Hmm.
You just pay attention.
If you just look. Yeah. It's so, um, yeah. Abstraction gets a hard rap, right? From
Yeah.
people who aren't visual art people, And I'm sad sometimes because I think it can make them feel stupid or dumb.
Mm.
And that's sad.
Yeah, that
Because
is.
I think it's intimidating when it doesn't need to be intimidating. And it's like, forget about what you've heard or thought. Just look and feel and pay attention to what you're thinking and you're feeling as you're looking at these. What's happening, right?
Yeah,
And what,
what was
right.
happening in your day and your life that led you to that space to be in front of this work
Mm-hmm.
informs how you see it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it
Yeah.
sure does. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like when you first I remember when I first saw a Franz Klein painting. I was really young, like
Mm.
barely teenage. And I remember seeing it, and most of what I'd seen up to that point were like Rembrandt, Corot, and Van Gogh, and
Yeah.
you what you would expect, Constable. And then I saw this Franz Klein, and I'm like, is that legal?
Is that legal? That's,
Is that legal? Can he do that?
can he get
And
away with that and call it
yeah,
art? Can he do that and
yeah.
call it art? That's
And I
legitimately
was so excited because I thought, oh my God, somebody cracked the code. And from an early age, that's what I wanted to look at. Really
Ooh.
sought that out, was where's all the what they call abstraction? Where's that? And I'd look at it and it totally baffled me, right? Whereas when you look at representational paintings, they're, I don't want to say easier, but there's such an open door, right, to experience it.
Right.
With abstraction, there's still an open door, but it's a little different, I suppose. I can't find
It's
the word, but yeah.
it's a the shape and form of the door with representation,
Hmm.
but the shape and form for an abstraction is not a rectangle. It may
Hmm.
not be a rectangle.
Hmm.
It could be
Something else, right?
so, yeah, and so you sense it, you're supposed to walk through, but because it's not presented to you in the way that you're supposed to walk through, I think
Right.
it's human nature to just pause.
Right.
It's kind of like the same thing in comparison to modern dance and
Yes.
classical, the classical
Yes.
dance, which I sometimes I go, it dance is dance, but then you start to realize there is a different kind of structure, but there's still a structure to modern dance, and
Hmm.
there's still a structure to
Hmm.
abstraction. It's not just
Oh yeah.
slapping a paint on a
Absolutely.
page. I
Right.
think people think that that's what you're doing. It's like no. There's some methodology. There's a kind of intention and an intellectual pursuit, and so there may be moments where you're just staring at it before you actually act, and
Right.
that you need the space to do that before you make that initial.
I'm Bonnie Miles, Membership Coordinator of CET. Thank you for listening to Rodney Veal's Inspired By. This podcast is a production of CET and Think TV, two local PBS stations. As PBS stations, the work we do online, on air, and in the community is supported by listeners like you. If you're enjoying the show and would like to support our work, please consider becoming a member at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org. Plus, when you sign up to donate at least $5 a month, you'll get access to special members-only streaming videos on the PBS app through Passport. Learn more at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org.
If you're enjoying this conversation, The Art Show, also hosted by Rodney Veal, is available to stream anytime from anywhere on YouTube or the PBS app.
This whole notion of, like you were talking about, we were talking about abstraction, and we're talking about the different portals and entry points, and then it's just this where you're at with it, I guess, is the you finish that thought, so to speak.
Hmm. Yeah, I think often my work now, I'll go back to something I experienced when I was outside working in plein air. Um, and I feel like all of the work is always tied into the natural world, how I start something, the movement of nature and the structure there is still with me. So that has helped me figure out what abstraction is for me and how I want to move it forward. And, after this show, I'm thinking now, okay, what's next? And I've already had thoughts about what I want to sort of tweak or
Ooh.
pull out, um, not completely change, but what's the next step?
Mm-hmm.
And it's right there and just waiting for me to dive in.
I
So,
love
yeah.
I, that's a. I was going to ask you about that because that seems to be because you have all it's the that's why it's so important to show work and to see
Mhm.
a body of work, is to be able to step back and go, okay, what am I seeing? What am I feeling? What could be the next iteration of this that's based upon, wow, I didn't expect that reaction, or I didn't see this at that time of the day. So what about, because that was one of the things that your exhibition at the Dana Wiley Gallery was, this conversation about seeing movement
Mhm. Right.
connected to your work. And
Right.
that's how our collaboration started, folks.
Yes, it was. Absolutely. And I think movement's always been really important to me, that when you're out in the landscape, it's constantly moving. The light is changing like
Mhm.
immediately.
Oh,
So
yeah.
some painters will think of it as sort of a when they make a painting, it's a chronicle sort of the light, and it might change in the painting. Like this section may be lit a little bit differently than this section, and it may not be extremely obvious to the viewer, but it sort of has to happen if you're painting from observation, right? Because
Mhm.
you're getting different light. So that's a subtle movement. But the big movement, I think, is what. And I was talking to Jennifer
Yes,
Sidor.
Cider,
Yep.
who
Yep.
danced in your space, and
Yes.
I'll explain it, folks. We'll explain it after
Right.
this.
Well, we started talking, and she said, "You're very somatic." And I would say, yes, that's true. And I don't think I knew I was that for quite a while. And then I would say in the last 5 or 10 years, realizing that for me, the way I paint, it's a lot of it is large. It's not huge. It's sort of like my arm width. if I put my arms out, fingertip to fingertip,
Right.
that movement with my whole arm versus my movement with the wrist,
Mm.
that's what, because then you get in it.
Because
That.
it's an embodiment of
Yes.
where
Right.
and I think that was one of the reasons I think that Jennifer responded to it,
Mm-hmm.
and so did Stevie,
Mm-hmm.
and so did I, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, it was like, oh yes, this is the when she says somatic, I was like, Jennifer, thank you for articulating the words that I couldn't articulate, because
Mm-hmm.
and then when you have a somatic practice, it's a full bodied. How do you motivate the body to move as an art maker,
How do,
as a dancer, even? And so
yes,
because we are all using our bodies,
we are.
irregardless of musician,
Mm-hmm.
writer, like your body
Mm-hmm.
is pushing this,
Right.
as well as your mind. So
And I think there's some people who are aware more of their bodies than others. Like when I do write, I can't do it I have to write, then I have to get up and then sort of pace, you know? And then I sit down and I write some more, and then I get up and I pace, or I do something. I'll throw a load of laundry in. But my head's all in the writing part. But I have to move.
you have to move.
I
Yes.
have to move. And the work I make in the studio, I don't sit and do anything except for maybe at the end, if there's a tweaking of some color that has to happen. And
But you're not.
I want to make some small changes. I might sit for that, but the rest of it has to be standing. And, the more I can move, the better. And there's a back and forth. There's getting close, backing up, walking around, getting something, it's, yeah.
So, because the thing is, as I promised the audience, what happened a couple months ago? We did a performance, a collective of dancers. I was one of the dancers. Moved inside the space to the artwork of Gary Henchy, and you were there. And then you talked about, I had this dream about movement in space, and the thing is, and I said, well, I know some dancers. We can make it happen. and we found some dancers, and we made it happen. And I remember the experience. And as a matter of fact, I owe them the video. I'm still working on that. What was it like to take something you saw as a dream of having movement connected from movement makers,
Right.
in your space, and how did that change now that the exhibition is down? How did those, it's like a two-parter there.
Yeah. Well, when I remember the performance that you were in, and for Gary's, right?
Yeah.
And we're sitting in that circle, and Rose passed out the elastic stand, stretchy things to people sitting in a circle. So it crisscrossed, right? Because she would pick opposite ends, like the on the line. Yes.
Through line.
The through lines. Yes.
Because Gary's work was so linear.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's dancing, and I'm like, she's dancing in a grid. I could hardly contain myself through that.
I could imagine.
And then you, and then the other dancers, it was just phenomenal. And it reminded me that I had this dream. And when I had the dream, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, it's kind of a weird dream. I don't know. It's like but I dream a lot and remember them a lot. And I think that's I think it's part of how I do what I do. And then I remember thinking, God, I don't know if I should mention this to Rodney or not. Is this really weird? You know how you have those thoughts?
I'm glad you didn't. I didn't.
I know.
I'm glad you. I'm glad you summoned the courage to mention it, because I said I was immediate. I was like, yeah, sure.
I know, you got really excited, and I was like, wow, he's really excited.
Yeah.
This must be okay.
Oh, I could see it. I had
visions.
I even knew the dancers. Those dancers are chosen specifically,
right? And the dream was this grid on a massive stage. That the grid itself moved and bent on its own, but it also moved with the dancers, and these dancers were climbing on it, and there was these flat flowing color costumes, and that was kind of the basic idea of the dream. And that's what, so it has put a whole different spin, no pun intended, on how I think about movement and how I think about movement in my work. So, yeah.
Mm. It's that simple. Sometimes I feel the simplicity of our saying yes, that the dream wasn't crazy, and
Hmm.
then getting the dancers in the space and having that
Hmm.
experience, and we're now having this conversation about it, is that's a sweet spot to me.
Yeah.
To me, as an art maker, you want to be in a room with other art makers.
Yes. I'd say it was the highlight of the show, like hands down, the best part of
Mm.
my show that I think that I got out of it were the dancers in that performance. Just to experience their experience of looking at the work and their response to witness that. It's like witnessing somebody else witnessing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not that I didn't think it was possible, but it's just made it really, I hate the word rich, but it's just made it.
Resonate. There's a
Yeah.
resonance. A
Yeah.
resonance. There's a different. Like, it just does. It just
Yeah. Right.
and there's a ripple effect, and I think that's the other thing about it, because now it's like, okay, there's going to be another iteration of movement
Mm-hmm.
with the next artist at that Dana's space,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a completely different group of artists,
Right.
and so it's like it's this intriguing. And there used to be a time when all of the arts did have these kind of present interactions,
Yes.
and that things would come out of it. And I think
Right.
that's what I find very fascinating
Right.
about.
And I would like to do more of it. I'm not sure how or what that looks like, Um,
It's an
and
invitation.
yeah, it's an
That's
invitation. And it could be vice versa where there's dance and then I respond or something. You know what I mean? I think it's
oh, oh,
yeah, I'm not sure how it would work, but I
you
think
use
I
our bodies as the
yeah,
paintbrushes. I'm
to
just
me,
saying.
right. I feel
See my face. I
like
got all excited again.
I know
We
you
gotta
did.
stop
That was
this.
the face I saw when I told you the dream.
I was like, oh yeah, let's do this. Like there's a way. What you're envisioning is not that far off.
Mm-mm.
I mean, the bodies.
No, I
Use the
know.
bodies as the brushes.
Hmm.
Let us go. Oh, Gretchen. I
I
love it.
know.
I love it. I love it. I mean, so it's just that's what I love, coming to get to know you in the last
Hmm.
couple of months. I mean, I've known you and I've known
Hmm.
of you, but
Hmm.
it's just the fact that there's still this curiosity, and
Hmm.
there's still this questioning,
Hmm.
not in a dark way,
Hmm.
but a questioning, the like, oh, what if?
It's always what if. You're exactly right. I think what if all the time. What if it doesn't necessarily mean change. Like, what if I changed it to this color or changed it to that? But it's like, what if this happened? If something else happened?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that keeps me going from one thing to, from one painting to the next painting to the next painting, which I don't want to say that printmakers are the only ones that think of that, because that's totally not true.
Right.
But um, as you know, I'm involved with the Dayton Printmakers Cooperative,
Mm-hmm.
and in the last probably 10 years, I've been more immersed in it.
Mm-hmm.
And printmaking is a slower process than painting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a slowing down, which I really kind of like, because sometimes it can be happening so fast with me that I enjoy that moment of pause. But in printmaking as well, there's a lot of materiality, like the way the ink lays on the paper,
Mm-hmm.
right? That interests me. There's risk, and there's things that happen that
Mm-hmm.
can't really be explained. That interests me. But it's the what if that is so intriguing. When I stop having that moment, I know I'm in trouble. you know,
You're in trouble. I was like,
I know I'm in trouble. So
oh my
yeah.
God. So I have a question, because one of the things we've been this season is this question. It's not necessarily, it takes its many forms and shapes. But one of the is it's around the theme that of creativity and imposter syndrome, and the belief
Oh,
Oh, you made the face. Didn't even have to explain it. Talk about like how do you battle that? Because I mean, that's
Oh
a
God.
yeah. Because I mean, I battle it.
Can I swear on your podcast? I'll
Yeah,
try not to. Okay, I won't.
but it's okay.
Mm,
Give him permission.
it's incredibly sneaky
Mm-hmm.
and difficult. And there's times when I think, I'm all right. I don't have that devil on my shoulder talking smack in my ear, you know?
Right.
But it happens. I think I know it happens even to the best of us, people who I feel have a real solid, grounded sense of themselves
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing. Um, I feel it a lot. And I feel a lot more than I probably want to admit to myself, not to others, because
Mm.
the most important thing is what you admit to yourself,
What
right?
you
And
mean to
that,
yourself, and that's
yeah,
that truth. That's a person. That's that truth is your truth, not the
yeah,
truth to
right,
kind of signal to the rest of the world. This
right.
is about when you are staring in your studio, in your space, at your work and what you're
Hmm.
doing. It's like, what are you telling yourself? What to
Yeah, and I think when I say it's important to what I tell myself and what I hear, because that's what everyone's going to see. That's really hard to camouflage. You can't really, people can kind of read that in your work. But one of the things I do is I almost don't allow judging or criticizing or critiquing my own work until I'm really done with it, until it's completely what I feel like really finished. And I force myself to not do that because it can shut anything down in a heartbeat if you do that too soon. I mean, the reason I say too soon is that it has to be done in some
Mhm.
way. You're going to have that moment of judging things, right? Not like if it's terrible or great, but if is that working? Is that what I want?
Is I
You know,
did I complete the assignment as
right. Yes.
attempted? And then
Right.
you and that like that imposter syndrome, that I'm not gonna doubt,
Mm,
can just paralyze you from trying the next piece
it can.
that expands upon the idea.
It can. I think age has helped me
Mm.
because I don't give a sometimes like what somebody else may think or feel. And that used to be, that loomed large.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know the turning point for that, but I think it's like, I guess in some ways I'm closer to the end in my life than I am the beginning.
Mhm.
And it goes back to TikTok. Who has
Yeah.
time for this thought about what you can or cannot do or what you think is not? um, I don't have time for that. So what I
No.
do have time for is introspection. Absolutely.
Absolutely. The kind of
Absolutely. Yeah.
and that's and the key that introspection is not. I love how you said not in the sense of judgment,
Hmm.
of denigration, of
Hmm.
destroy,
Hmm.
because a lot of times we that we allow that that devil on the shoulder to
Hmm.
just literally destroy
Oh, yeah. It's
verses.
awful. I've seen it happen to people.
I've seen it derail some really talented
Hmm.
artists, and so it's, I think it is a product of time, but I think it's also a product of time, and the time that was spent and what was ingested,
Hmm.
and that time that was spent.
Right.
It's the love of family. It's the love of the outdoors. It's the love of that nature's in motion. I mean, it's all of the things in that, and I think that that's what you perfectly embody right now. It
Hmm.
makes it exciting. It makes it exciting to see what you're going to do. I mean, that's where I'm
Uh-oh,
at.
the pressure's on.
No pressure. No pressure. Don't see it as pressure.
I
Just
won't. I won't.
but see it as joy, because
Yeah.
I smile. When I don't smile, that's when people should be scared.
Yeah.
From if
Right.
I'm not smiling, there's a problem. You need to,
Right.
you may not want to hear what has to come out of the mouth.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because when you said that about TikTok, I just watched this really it's related, but I watched our former First Lady Michelle Obama, and
Mhm.
she talked about, if I'm lucky, I've got 30 more summers
Yeah.
if I'm blessed.
Mhm.
And she says, so why am I going to waste my time
Right.
with anything that I don't think I need to spend my time on
Yes.
and doing?
That's it. Bingo right there, right?
And you're embodying that.
Yeah. And it's not that I don't get taken down by doubt, by self-doubt, by self-criticism. Oh, of course I do. But I think what happens is I stay down a lot shorter length of time and it
Mm.
moves through quicker. And then I realize, hello, okay, you had your moment. Are you done now? We need to move on.
We need to move on.
We need to move on.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't allow myself to feel it because you don't want to do that. You
You
need
don't
to,
want to suppress it.
yes,
That's the key. Don't
yeah,
suppress it. Yeah.
you got to feel your feels. So, but you don't have to wallow in it to a point of that's where it becomes destructive, right? When you're
Mm.
just really wallowing in it. So, yeah. And I think the excitement right now, I am excited about the work. There have been years when maybe that wasn't quite as intense. So I plan on, going with that as long as I can, you know.
Well,
So,
you, I know you will.
yeah.
I just have a knowing sense of that, and
Mhm.
I'm hoping that we can find a figure out a way to make the grid with human bodies.
Mhm. Yeah.
I want to explore that idea
Yeah.
off of the podcast.
Okay.
So Gretchen, you are such a delightful force of nature, and you're just so talented. Beyond talent. This is beyond
Aw.
talent. This is about a sense of artistry that just it's manifesting itself in the work in a way that just stops us in our tracks and takes our breath away. So thank you.
All right. Well,
That's how
that's
I feel. So
good.
that's how I
Yeah.
feel. So
Well, I really appreciate it. And talking with you is always a delight. So, yeah, there's that.
here's
That's
that.
big.
It's big. It is big. So
Yeah.
thank you for being a guest on the show.